Welcome back. In Chapter 5, we look at the difference between full costing and variable costing. Specifically in exercises 511 through 518, we consider one company, Summit Manufacturing, and look at the differences in cost valuation as well as reported income under the two methods. Over on the left-hand side of the spreadsheet, we have the cost information both on a per unit basis, so the cost as well as pricing information on a per unit basis, as well as the fixed overhead and then the selling administrative expenses. In these exercises, the selling administrative are all treated as fixed. That wouldn't have to be the case. It's just a simplifying assumption here. So Summit Manufacturing produced 50,000 units during the year in all of these problems and sold 45,000. So that means the difference of 5,000 is what will be remaining in ending inventory. Now you want to be careful here because that's actually the increasing ending inventory from beginning of the year to end of the year. But since we weren't given any beginning balance in inventory, we're treating this as the increase in inventory. So you want to be careful, again, regarding that. So now the question is, out of these 5,000 units that are in ending inventory, what's the difference in valuation under the two methods? So both methods will have the 5,000 units, 5,000 shovels, but what's the difference in cost? So under full costing, the total manufacturing costs will include both the variable components so the $5 for direct materials, $4 for direct labor, and $3 for variable overhead, multiplied by the number of units produced, plus the fixed overhead of 180,000, which will give us 780,000. Now we take that 780,000 and we spread that under full costing over the 50,000 units that were produced. So we take 780 and divide by 50, and we get $15.60 per shovel. We call that the unit product cost. Now, under variable costing, we could go through the symmetrical exercise of taking the $5, $4, and $3, multiplying that by the 50,000 units. The units produced are 50,000 as well, so that when we copy this formula over here, we see, hopefully not surprisingly, that we have $12 per shovel as the unit product cost. So when we're considering what our values are in ending inventory, we would multiply the 1560 here by the number of units in inventory, or 78,000. And similarly, multiply the $12 by the 5,000, you get 60,000. So we have an $18,000 difference in ending inventory. And indeed, in exercise 513, we're asked to find the difference in net income without actually preparing the income statement. So since the ending inventory is $18,000 higher under full costing, that means the net income is $18,000 higher under full costing than it is under variable costing. And that difference is that we've not recognized $18,000 of the fixed overhead yet. So in other words, notice that we have the ending inventory is 10% of production, and this $18,000 is 10% of the fixed overhead. So we've recognized $162,000 of fixed overhead under full costing into net income. Under variable costing, we've recognized the entire $180,000 because we expensed it as if it were a selling and administrative expense. It's not following GAAP, but it's saying, look, we have the $180,000 regardless of how much we produce, so we're just going to ignore that it's a product cost altogether. We may not do that under GAAP. We may do that under variable costing. So in exercise 514, then we're asked to find the cost of goods sold under full costing. So staying in this column, we have $15.60 per shovel multiplied by the number of shovels, which will give us $702,000. Now notice sort of a check here is that we should be able to take the ending inventory and the cost of goods sold, and notice that that 780 is exactly equal to that total manufacturing cost above. Now in 515, instead of the cost of goods sold number, we're looking at solely the variable cost of goods sold. So we'll want to take the $12 per shovel and multiply that by the number of units sold, 45,000. And similarly, we have our check here. We see that that 600,000 is fully accounted for. So under in 516, we're asked, well, what is net income under full costing? Now we're not prohibited from calculating the income statement here, so it's probably not a bad idea to go ahead and do that. So we take our sales number, our cost of goods sold, which difference gives us the gross margin. The selling and admin, I will take care of over there. And so then our net income number will follow. So our sales, we have $30 per shovel. Multiply that by the number of shovels, 45,000, 1.35 million. Cost of goods sold, we saw above here, 702,000. So then the difference will be 648,000. That's our gross margin. 160,000 in net income. 160,000 sales, selling administrative expenses. So our net income number is 488,000. And pretty up the spreadsheet here, we'll go ahead and highlight these items here and have our double underline there. Now, yes, you guessed it, in 517, what's the net income under variable costing? So we will take the same sales number. So we have $30 per shovel. Multiply that by the 45,000 units. But now we will want our variable costs. And here, this is what the variable cost of goods sold number would be. And so that's 540,000. And the difference here gives us what's known as the contribution margin. So everything above this line, everything above the variable cost and sales line, these two items are going to vary on a per shovel basis. So then we can examine, well, how much does each unit contribute as we go ahead and do cost volume profit analysis moving forward. So then instead of selling administrative, we're going to have all of the fixed costs there. So we're going to sum the fixed overhead because that's not accounted for above, as well as the selling administrative, which gives us 340,000. So when we copy this formula over, we see that net income under variable costing is 470,000. Who would think there would be this much profit in shovels? So in 518, we're asked to figure out how much fixed overhead is in ending inventory under full costing. So fixed overhead in ending inventory. Now, the way to think about this is that we have, similar to what we see in the difference in net income, the difference between the $15.60 and the $12, in other words, $3.60 per shovel, is our fixed overhead per shovel based on a production of 50,000. We multiply that by the 5,000 units in ending inventory, and we get our $18,000. So this problem gave us an opportunity, or this set of problems gave us an opportunity to build up some dexterity with full and variable costing. Again, the key here is that we are likely to have a difference between how many units were produced and sold, and that would